I want us to be in the best position to win. It's fair for y'all to be asking me these questions right now. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of a weak move. And I've been transparent about our struggles and stuff that we could do better, but y'all putting me in a position, answer questions that I don't think is cool, man.
The Portland Trailblazers have officially announced their decision with the number 3 overall pick in this upcoming NBA draft, which is supposed to be a very deep one, by the way. And personally, I'm not necessarily sure if this is the right decision. If the scenario is played out correctly, the Portland Trailblazers could set themselves up really, really well for the future. But if they don't, then they might be kicking themselves for the decision that they make during this draft. So before we get to the content, whenever we get to 100,000 subscribers with my notifications on YouTube, we're going to be giving away $1,000 to 5 subscribers that have my notifications on. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Can I be honest for a second? The one thing that changed sports for me forever is Prize Picks. Just having a little extra action on the game has made watching games so much more enjoyable, and I've actually been using this to get into other sports as well. A lot of you have DM'd me the amount of money that you guys are making off of Prize Picks, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story every single day. And right now, if you use my promo code microphone, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Do you remember when Damian Lillard was set to meet with the press during the 2020 Team USA practice, where he was to make his intentions known about his future? And there was wide speculation that he was about to announce that he wanted to demand a trade from the Portland Trailblazers.
I woke up to those reports, a lot of people reaching out to me, but it's not true. I'll start off the rip and say it's not true. I said the last time I spoke to you guys that a lot of things are being said and, it hasn't come from me. So, number one is it's not true. I'll also say that I haven't made any firm decision on, what my future will be. So there's really no need for anybody else to speak for me or report this or report that. If there's something to be said, as I said the last time, I'll speak directly with my team and with Neil.
And no one would have blamed him at this point. Damian Lillard was so loyal to the Portland Trailblazers. He gave them the best years of his life, but the fact of the matter was that the Portland Trailblazers were way closer to rebuilding than trying to put a contender around Damian Lillard. They were one season removed from finishing 3rd in the Western Conference, and they finished 8th in 2019 to 2020, finished 6th the year after, and then crashed to a brand new low over the past 2 seasons. Through it all, Damian Lillard would either post cryptic content about his future or reaffirm his commitment to Portland, citing that it would feel way better to win a championship with the team that he was with for the entirety of his career than to move on to a new team or a super team and win a championship that way. That being said, Portland Trailblazers signed him to a super max contract. Now, I'm sure that played a huge hand in it, by the way. I automatically assume anytime something like this occurs, the player would just say,
"Hey, I'm so loyal now. Please pay me like damn near $61 million a year to stay on your team."
Which, by the way, is the case for the Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard is making an obscene amount of money every single year until the end of the 2026 to 2027 season. He's getting paid $63 million in base salary. I mean, he has a 2-year, $121 million contract extension that kicks in at the end of the 2025 season, which is so absurd to me because I'm just thinking about the amount that the Lakers signed Shaq to when he was a free agent and he left the Orlando Magic, and people are making the amount that he made during the entire span of that contract in just 2 years in today's day and age. And I don't blame Dame. I really don't. I mean, money's always nice, especially if people are going to celebrate you in your home city. But if you take a look at this Portland Trailblazers team, the fit of Damian Lillard is just so odd, and they really did their best to put a contender around him originally, but it seems like they're not even trying anymore. I mean, 2 years ago, the Portland Trailblazers traded Gary Trent and Rodney Hood to the Toronto Raptors for Norman Powell. 1 year later, the Trailblazers would trade Norman Powell and Robert Covington, which originally I believed was a solid acquisition for them in an attempt to try their best to get Damian Lillard some two-way help, and would get Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a second-round pick in return. That's not necessarily a move you make if you're trying to compete immediately, but they would also trade CJ McCollum to the New Orleans Pelicans for Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and a protected 2022 first-round pick and 2 future second-round picks. And then during the trade deadline this past year, they would trade Josh Hart for Cam Reddish, Svi Mikhailuk, and a protected first-round pick. These aren't moves that you make if you're doing your best to compete. These are moves you make if you're trying to rebuild. And through it all, Damian Lillard was having very prolific seasons. I mean, this past season was the best season of his career, averaging 32 points per game, shooting 37% from 3, averaging 7 assists per game. But the one question I want to ask you guys is, are the Portland Trailblazers telling the truth here? Are they really being transparent with what their plans are? In my last video, I said if the Portland Trailblazers get the #1 overall pick and select Victor Wembanyama, then there's actually hope for this team. Problem is that they were one lottery ball away from getting that #1 pick, and then they sent out this memo because they got the #3 overall pick. And this memo is actually really funny because they say, hey, are you ready for an exciting season? The ping pong ball bounced in our favor, Rip City. We've secured the #3 overall pick in the 2023 NBA draft. I love how the #3 overall pick is like all in bold because you could tell that they like clearly edited that one part and changed it from like #1 to like #3. Like, you're not gonna say that the ping pong ball bounced in our favor, yay, we got the 3rd pick. You know, that's just a little odd. But moving forward, our basketball ops team is working behind the scenes to improve our roster and build a team ready to compete alongside Damian Lillard, who had his best season to date last year. Stay tuned, this offseason is sure to be exciting. Plus, we have the #23 pick in the first round received in our mid-season trade with the New York Knicks. The thing about this is, one, I have no faith whatsoever in the Portland Trailblazers front office to make the right decision here. I mean, they've already proven to me that they have no idea what they're doing with the trades that we've already mentioned in this video, and I'm just being honest. It seems like the Portland Trailblazers are in the worst possible place that you could be. They are quite literally a team that is trying their best to make it into the 7th and 8th seed of the NBA playoffs. They would be content being a play-in team because that's all this team could be. And they really did try to put talent around Damian Lillard. I mean, they signed Jeremy Grant last year. And I guess, well, that's about it, to be honest. That was like it. That's like,
hey Dame, this is gonna make us a 1st seed in the West. Here's Jeremy Grant.
Which, nothing against Jeremy Grant, solid player, but that clearly wasn't enough because the Portland Trailblazers finished in the same exact place as they did last year. But the thing is, this year, they get the #3 pick in a very, very loaded NBA draft. And things are looking very interesting for the future of Damian Lillard, because we need to be honest at this point. If you look at the entirety of the Portland Trailblazers roster and Damian Lillard, these are two entities that are in complete different places in their careers at this point. Damian Lillard is 32 years old. He's the oldest player on this roster. Then comes Jeremy Grant at 29 and Yusuf Nurkic at 28. Following that, let's skip like some of the role players and talk about more of the main guys, or who I believe could be the future of the Portland Trailblazers. Anthony Simons, Cam Reddish, Nasir Little, and Kevin Knox are all 23 years old. And Shaedon Sharpe is 19 years old. Now we're at the part of the video that is really the reason I made this video to begin with, because the Portland Trailblazers have a plethora of options here, and I think they're being very disingenuous in regards to what their intentions are for the future. You see, the Portland Trailblazers have said multiple times that they intend on trading the #3 overall pick in this NBA draft and maybe trying to pair it with an existing player or one of their young assets to try to get Damian Lillard some help. I mean, this is coming from Zach Lowe of ESPN. Executives expect the Blazers to heavily shop the #3 pick in June's draft in an attempt to land a veteran piece next to Lillard. Most view the 2023 draft as a 3-player class, with Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, and Brandon Miller all projecting as future All-Stars. Portland's good lottery pick gives the franchise power it might not otherwise have to acquire a high-quality veteran via trade while also retaining forward Jeremy Grant, who Lowe reported is expected to return on a new contract. And then this article also cites that the Blazers have $13.4 million in cap space, so they could package a player or two in any deal to land a significant piece. If the Toronto Raptors decide to take on a rebuild, Portland could be a natural fit for Pascal Siakam, who fits in the roster trajectory and likely won't cost several future first-round picks. Now, this is where it gets really strange to me, because Damian Lillard is 32 years old. He is coming off of his best season so far. He's currently locked up in a contract until 2026. You saw what the Brooklyn Nets were able to get for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, who was a few seasons removed from an Achilles tear, who clearly made it known that he wanted to be traded from the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, the Nets got an incredible return for KD. And no, I'm not saying Damian Lillard is as good as Kevin Durant. I'm saying that where he is currently, his value is higher than Kevin Durant. I would take the 32-year-old player coming off of the best season of his career without a crazy injury history over the player that is coming off of an Achilles tear, who is 34 years old, who I hope will continue to be awesome, but you don't really know. So there's multiple courses of action that the Trailblazers could take here. One is what they want you to believe, which is they're going to package the number 3 overall pick and try to trade it for maybe Siakam or another player to help Jeremy Grant and Damian Lillard. But my issue with that course of action is that is literally giving up one of your best assets that you've had in probably a decade to get a player that'll hopefully get you to maybe a 7th seed at best, or a 6th seed if we're really overachieving. I'm sorry to say this, but Pascal Siakam on the Portland Trailblazers with Jeremy Grant and Damian Lillard isn't enough to win a championship. I'm sorry. The second course of action is very interesting, and it's kind of the reason why I believe that the Portland Trailblazers really only have one choice here. The top 3 picks in the NBA draft currently are owned by San Antonio at number 1 overall, which we all know who they're going to take. Charlotte at number 2 overall, which they're in a very interesting situation, which we'll get to in a sec. And of course, Portland at number 3 overall. The Charlotte Hornets have the number 2 overall pick. The reason why this is so interesting is because they currently have a ball dominant point guard in LaMelo Ball. I mean, you could call LaMelo whatever you want. You could play him at small forward if you really want to. And I know LaMelo only played in like 36 games this year, but when you have LaMelo Ball playing point guard at 6'7", which by the way is a huge mismatch for the rest of the league, and he's been doing a really good job playing point guard at 6'7", and he's your primary ball handler, and he's still developing, by the way. Do you think it's a good idea to go out and select Scoot Henderson, who is a 6'4" guard at this point, and pair him with LaMelo Ball? I mean, I guess LaMelo Ball gets pushed over to the small forward position. Is that really the best for LaMelo Ball's career? Is Scoot Henderson that much better than Brandon Miller to the point where you're going to take him over potentially Brandon Miller, who would be a seamless fit next to LaMelo Ball, who would make the Charlotte Hornets that much more imposing defensively due to the length that they would have? I mean, a 6'7" point guard, a 6'8" small forward. I think Brandon Miller fits with LaMelo Ball several orders of magnitude better than Scoot Henderson does, and I feel like between Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, there's a 50-50 shot at either one of those players being better or having a better career than one another. But in this case, let's assume that Charlotte is going to lean towards Brandon Miller, because in my head, that's what makes the most sense. And I'm sure in your head, that's what makes the most sense as well. That means with the 3rd overall pick in the NBA draft, the Portland Trailblazers would have the opportunity to select Scoot Henderson. Now, of course, there is the chance that they get Brandon Miller falling to their laps, but in this case, if Scoot Henderson falls to your lap at the number 3 overall pick, and this is considered to be a 3-player draft, the top 3 players could without a doubt be superstars in the NBA. Are you going to trade the number 3 overall pick to another team in order to get your 32-year-old supermax contract player a piece to try to become a 6th seed in the West? I mean, based off of what I've seen the Portland Trailblazers do at this point, nothing surprises me, but that would be a horrific mistake, and I don't think anyone is disputing it. Why would you do that when you could trade Damian Lillard to a team with a ton of assets that is desperate for a star and just continue to build around this young core that you have? You already did your job. You pumped up Damian Lillard's value to its peak. He's coming off of his best season. I mean, the trade package that you could get for Damian Lillard could be in the ballpark of what the Minnesota Timberwolves gave up for Rudy Gobert, what the Cavaliers gave up for Donovan Mitchell, and even better than what the Atlanta Hawks gave up for DeJounte Murray. And then you could select Scoot Henderson with the number 3 overall pick and focus on developing Shai Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, which could be a very good backcourt, by the way. Or you could even experiment with moving Shaedon Sharpe to the small forward position if you really wanted to. Or maybe between Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, one of those players is the odd man out, and you end up trading one of them. What I'm trying to say here is the answer clearly is to trade Damian Lillard. It's funny because a fan tweeted out, muting all of you that are undervaluing the Blazers' #3 pick and insisting on trading Dame. What's wrong with you all? You think we suffered this long to go out like that? Goodbye. And Dame would quote this saying, if the fans want to trade me, start the petition and send it in. There's a lot of destinations that Damian Lillard could go to. One option could be the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat have a ton of assets, but it's really weird suggesting trades for defending teams in the conference finals. Another option could be trading him to the New Orleans Pelicans and bringing back CJ McCollum, Kyra Lewis, Dyson Daniels, and 4 first-round picks. But a lot of this obviously also depends on how the offseason goes. The Los Angeles Lakers could be a destination in a sign and trade for D'Angelo Russell and their unprotected future first-round pick. So let me know in the comment section down below, what should the Portland Trailblazers do here? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.